Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Basically, we're going to walk through how the laws system, etc. works in Eco, at least from what I found so far. So, what I think we'll go through and do first is run over here to the courthouse. We've kind of got all the tables set up. This is where RGB's kind of put everything for right now. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through the example of kind of what I made first with the law and the district that I made for basically kind of an example of how I understand it to be so far. And then I'll just kind of maybe go through at least how I understand some of the tables to work for right now, etc. I am not an expert in some of this. I just kind of figured some of this out by basically doing it. So let's put this away. You guys don't need to see me moving around my shovel all the time. So we're here in the main courthouse building. Basically, there's a few things you need to basically get started with the government. I'm not going to go through that too much just because I'm mainly more concerned about having people actually use the government rather than going through and trying to like get it set up in the first place. But basically, the first thing you need is basically need this capital object, which basically Carpenter makes. Let's look in here. Constitution, basically it talks about how you can do elections, what executive actions can do, things like that. So we'll go over here. What I did first is, so what I wanted to do is basically to help with some of the farming stuff a little bit. I went basically made my goal was to make a district where authorized employees, it could be anybody on the server, it could be just somebody that the government approved, could go sit and basically be able to work on those farm areas. Not have to worry about somebody coming and stealing it, or them having to use land claims, etc. So how geography kind of works in the world here, so you can only turn on 2D object. So you can basically see this is obviously eco globe, nothing new here. If you go into world layers, districts, you can look here, district map 1. Basically, this is the current district map. As far as I can tell, whenever you update districts, like if, let's say, a new district map passed or something by election, I think the server has to restart to rebuild this, or at least it takes a long time to update, because I waited around for a while and it didn't go here a couple days ago when I was doing it. But so basically, you can look over here, and basically the center of your screen is your little cursor. Obviously, I'm sure some people know this, some people don't. Down here at the bottom, it'll show up what district you're actually hovering over right now. So you can see what I added here are kind of these light green areas. I mean, you can swap through. You can have multiple districts at one time. So we'll get a map view here, and we'll go over and look at, this is the zoning office. You can tell it's the zoning office. It's got the little globe right here, the little chart, game world. So what we're going to do, so basically, most government tables, as I've seen, they can have up to 3 active laws, maps, entities basically here, right? So you can see basically we've got a national road map, a district map, an empty slot, and we have a draft. Everything has a primary and then a draft. So basically a draft is for stuff that's in work, so you can basically work on something and then exit and come back to and finish it later. Or in this case, with the little blue thing here, you can see that it says in election. So basically the way laws work in Eco is, or anything is, basically you need to edit something, you need to create a draft, work on the draft. When you're ready, you can basically say start election. Start election basically is what pushes out to the rest of the players. If you go over here on the right, you can basically see here, this is where you can do the yes, no. Once it's in this point, then you can go do a 24-hour vote, and then it'll pass or not. So what we'll see here is basically, what I did is I made open up the district map. So basically, this is the, take it back. Let me do a draft district map just to see what it looks like. So this is what happens when you come up with a brand new district map. You can basically add districts over here on the left. So basically, you just click Add New District. You use the little pencil icon to change the name. You can change, what color it shows up as on the map, things like that. And what you do is you can change the size of the cursor. Basically, your cursor becomes this, almost look like a land claim type icon. You can change the size of it. But what you do is you basically right-click to add your district. So in this case, I'm just going to right-click, boom, you change the color. So this area would be a new district called District 33. if I wanted to clear this, let's say I didn't want it, you just have to right-click again. Oh, I can take it back. You right-click and... Sorry, if I do... You're supposed to be able to, if you right-click, you're supposed to take away what you don't want. Let me try starting in a white area, and then... Nope, it didn't work either. Odd. Okay. Well, that's funny, because it worked before. Basically, if you wanted to redo it, maybe if you've got an existing district map, let me try opening a different one and seeing if that works. There should be a way to clear it. Let me try, yeah, there. For some reason, I don't know if it's the small size or, you have to click inside the area you've already got, and then it'll start clearing it. If you right-click and hold, you can basically, so if you start in an area that's not claimed, it'll claim. If you start in an area that's claimed, it'll de-district it. And you can basically just move just like you're in Microsoft Paint, just move it back and forth. Left mouse button, basically just like you're panning around the globe in Eco. Did it again. No. Start inside. There we go. Basically, do this. You click the little red X if you don't want it. So in this case, I'm going to do a district. I'm just going to make a random sized one. And then I'm going to submit. And it says create election draft for District 7. District map 7. If you click yes, I'm not going to click yes because I don't know if I can undo this. If you click yes, that basically saves it as a draft then, as a work in progress. And you can come back to this at any time. As far as I know, anybody can edit this. And basically when you're done, you can basically click, actually I'm going to click yes, and if it breaks, it breaks. Figure it out. So draft created with first provisions. You can add more provisions to it. So basically you can come back, it means you can come back and edit. And then when you're ready, you can do this. And so you see over here, you'll see where it says pending elections, start election. Basically, this doesn't get pushed to any other players until you do this. So we're not going to click start election because that's going to screw with the one already in progress. So what you can also do, so if you walk away from the table, someone else comes in here, comes back. It's got view, basically create a copy. So basically you can start one in progress, and then you can delete this. So we're just going to remove, if you press view, and then you can click edit. If you click view, basically these icons down here, you can see what's been proposed, so other people can come in here and look at it, but they can't edit it. You click edit, so then all of a sudden, then you can come in here and you've got the icons and things you can sit and basically delete it, edit it, grow it, whatever you want. So, close out of this, get rid of this one, remove the draft, so now there's nothing here. And so anyway, so back to what I did. So that's how you make new districts. So what I did is I basically made a district over here called Snap Foods, or Snap Foods. Basically, so it's kind of government farming, but we're basically going to sell stuff so the government makes money from it. No one's going to, just to sell to cooks, things like that. And so basically, I drew these out. What helps is so you can basically zoom in real close on the map to see exactly where you want to place it down at. And you can overwrite other territories there, so be mindful if you're editing someone's district. What we found out is with laws, if you write laws against districts, let's say for government stuff, where say you need to be a resident of a certain district to get, let's say, a tax breaks or income or something like that, if you delete that district, the law system goes really screwy because all of a sudden it's trying to evaluate a law against something that doesn't exist, and you basically get log spam in you go here under notifications. You start getting all kinds of spam in there. So, what we're due. So let's go over and take a look at the law. So my original goal was to, like I said, make an area where only approved employees could sit and work in it. So we made the district now. Let's go over and take a look at the registry, because that is basically where you can create groups. So go in this building here. Real estate office. This is the real estate office. I don't know what this does. I haven't used this. I guess it looks like... Oh, this is, I guess, where you could sit and sell land claims, or sell, like, deeds, so you can mark out an area. Let's say you were scouting in the early game and you found a really great ore vein or some resource or something, and you could put up an offer here later on. Let's say you found a good oil patch, right? and you didn't want to go down oil drilling, but you knew someone else would, you could basically sell your land claim here. Basically, these are deeds, and then you can sit and basically sell them. Cool concept, kind of advanced, you know, not something I've had to worry about yet. So this is the registrar. You open this up, and basically you can basically make titles. So in this case, we've got Department of Projects, Department of Housing. You can basically change the name of these to be whatever you want. And obviously authorization, anyone can edit these, or at least, like I said, some servers, maybe only the admins can edit it. Depends what you want out of your server. This one, we were just going to sit and basically anybody can do, because we wanted this to be an open government. So anyways, go under registrar. I made this Department of Snap Resources. So here I made who's the title manager. So basically the way registrars work is basically it's a group, right? So you make a group, and then you have to have who can edit that group and who is a part of the group. They don't have to be the same people. So if you wanted to have like Department of Transportation, you could make a Department of Transportation that the president or admins or whoever you wanted could be in charge of it, and then different people could be on it as members. It's a little separate than contracts, because contracts the permission, you can have contracts that where the permissions, access permissions, apply for only the duration of the contract. So let's say you wanted somebody to go mine a bunch of sand for you from your sand pit. Okay, you make a contract, and you basically, during the nature of the contract, when they mine 200 sand, random wolf, I guess, they're trying to sit and attack something, they would only have access for the duration of the contract till finish. This is more permanent, quote unquote. I mean, it can still be changeable, but it's more permanent. Nothing, unless somebody changes this, you know, you're not going to be taken off a list or whatever. So anyways, I made a Department of Snap Resources, and I basically made admins, myself, and the president, basically, who can edit this. And then you just, you know, go in here under the little plus icon. You can filter by names. You can start typing, you know, and it'll down select. You can remove people as well. And a title holder is basically who is a part of this group, who has this title. There's some advanced settings and things. So, like, for example, if you wanted to sit and pay people a salary, you could say, do they have to be, everything in Eco is divided up into basically some of these different categories. There's a lot of logic. There are residency types. There's all kinds of things. Basically, search through here, and everything's very human readable in a way. So you'll see this especially when you get to laws. Like, the logic may seem a bit funny, but when you actually, it basically takes and it converts it into words. And that's what's really powerful and easy to understand, then, I think, once you kind of get it. So again, here's some choices. Basically, if you wanted to have somebody be paid online, offline hours, what currency, how much, etc., you could do that. But in this case, so basically, I made a Department of Snap Resources. I added myself for right now, but anybody can sit and do it. You can be a part of multiple groups. So now it's time to go make the law. So we've made the district that the law is going to act over. We've gone set and added the group of titles to basically people who can do it. You know, who is authorized, who does that law act on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here. This is the courthouse. It basically looks like a little courtroom. You got the little judges area, little tables. So basically these are courts. Courts are where laws are stored at. You can have multiple, so you can see here we've got 2 courts. Multiple, you can have up to 3 laws in each court. So if you wanted a bunch of laws, you need multiple courts. Simple as that. So we'll go over to this one. It's not this one, it was the other one here. So I made Law 15. So we're going to look at what Law 15 says. So Law 15, basically, you can give it a title, preserves farming land for the SNAP food program to ensure steady supply of crops to cooks. So what this does, so basically laws can have multiple sections. And on this section, you basically can add, there's what's called triggers. I guess I should just go on in. Let's click Revise Law just to see what that looks like. So for each section, so basically you can put the description in here, change the title, whatever you want. So basically, this is the human readable portion of the law. So this is basically, it takes all of this stuff in the boxes, and it basically turns it into words that you can read. So in this case, it basically, so what are we doing? We're basically saying on event, place or pick up objects. So basically, if you like want to drop a block of stone, or if you want to place a table or something like that, basically on event, so basically anytime you place something or pick up an object, where item is one of any of these world objects, so basically that's kind of eco stuff is divided up into world objects and items. Items are stuff that, kind of like if you open up your inventory, right? If you open up your inventory, these are all items. Items do not exist in the world, in the 3D world space. Anything that's got a 3D model to it is called an object. These things are called items. So if I were to drop these arrows on the ground, for example, they're just going to drop in a pile of garbage, right? They're not going to show up as a bunch of individual arrows. So anyways, I'm going to go back in here, and basically, so whenever basically somebody tries to pick up or place an object, which is any of these tables or items that you're familiar with, or they try to drop or pick up a block. So blocks are like stone blocks, wood blocks, reinforced concrete blocks, things that you build with, right? Bricks, or basically anything that you build with for building materials are considered blocks. So basically, anytime somebody tries to pick up or place something, drop or pick up a block, they try to drop garbage, they try to plow the field, plant seeds, harvest or hunt, or, and I found this out the hard way, they try to access a table. So like, let's say you've got the doors to your, there's no way to really, unless you set a lock, there's no way to like restrict access to the doors, right? So somebody could come into your door if you wanted to, or open your garage door, and they can't move anything. But unless you have it set up, so the whole purpose of this is, I wanted this district to not have to use land claims, because land claims are kind of rare in the game, right? I didn't want to spend my personal land claims to claim a big farm. So what I basically said, okay, let's basically write a law that restricts all the actions so that basically, unless you're in the Department of Snap Resources with the title as we just saw previously, you're not going to be able to do anything. You can look around, you can't touch anything, you can't drop anything, you can't pollute anything in case somebody decides to have an outburst and decides to drop wet tailings on my farm. They can't do that. So basically that's where this drop or pick up, tailings are considered a block, garbage is a block, compost is a block. Anyways, can't pick up or place anything, can't pick up or drop anything, any blocks. You can't drop garbage, you can't plow the field, plant the field, or harvest the field, or in my case, I have a farm, and we'll see that in just a second. I basically built a little barn where I store the tractor. It has a bunch of seeds in it, in the silo, things like that. They can't open anything either. So what happens, I had a storage chest where I had some farm implements that I bought, and I thought I had this all set up correctly, and I came back the next day, and someone had stolen all my farm equipment. So I realized that basically this was the issue, was that you can also access inventories too if you don't have this on here. So if you add this in, basically with all this, basically on any of these events, so anytime anybody across the server tries to do one of these things, if they do not have this title, which is basically, right now, that's me. So if someone gets on and they try to do one of these things, and they're not a part of this, and where they're trying to do it at, the action location, is inside of this district, then what are we going to do? We're going to prevent it. So basically, this is why you needed the title, why you needed the district, because you're writing a law that says if you don't have this title and you are in this zone, prevent these things. So what we're also going to do is we're just going to do something else here. We're going to try to make a simple law just to show you guys a little bit more about how the system works. And no, anytime you change one of these, to have it take us, so right now it's in draft form, just like how we had the draft district maps. What you're going to say is add changes to an election, and it will get sent off for its own election. So everything I said, everything in this game is run off of elections. So you can have people vote on things, or theoretically, depending how you have your government set up, like I think here, the president can, excuse me, executive order approve elections. So somebody could make an election for this. The president could rubber stamp it, and it could be approved. Admins, we have commands where we could basically force changes. Obviously, we don't do that, but you could enforce elections one way or the other if you really felt like it. But again, we want to keep this player-driven and not admin-driven. So let's add a new section here, for example. This is what you're going to see when you first open it up. Let's do a law. Let's say you can only have, so I went and made a shopping district, because basically we want to have a central market hub, right? So let's go back in here. Let's open up this as proposed. I added this little area over here. I called it Market Hub. So basically what's going to happen is, this is where we want everybody to move their shops, right? So that way, instead of having people having to drive all the way down to Jurassic Park, or all the way up to Super Thor's place, or somewhere up over here for farming goods, we wanted a centralized place where basically people could have a small shop area, roads everywhere, and basically you could either rent a plot or, right, we haven't fully fleshed that. We needed the district first. So basically we basically made this market hub area. So we're going to do is let's write a law that basically says you can't have a shop or you can't buy or sell goods unless the location is inside of that zone, for example. So open this up. Collapse this down so we need to see all this. So trigger, let's scroll through what we've got for triggers. So here's a list of things that basically, what can the law trigger on? So here is basically broken out by citizens, civics, construction, basically kind of categories of things you want to do. So in this case, let's see, and you can just kind of scroll through, and it's got the name, it's got the little description here. So let's kind of scroll through and see what we want. So let's see, we don't want anything with citizen, we don't want the civic stuff. Well, so buying and selling goods, I think that's kind of an economy thing. So let's see what we've got here. Movement of items between inventories by the citizen. Let's see. Inventory action. Printing money. Like I said, this is just kind of the process. Partly, like I said, it's figuring out what you want for a law first and kind of scrolling through and seeing what can you do in the game to basically make it happen. Let's see. There's finance, harvesting, pollution. This education stuff is basically for, there's some education aspects when they do the whole cities revamp thing here coming up in, I think, 10.0. This is going to be a lot more important. Basically, it's going to be how you, we think education is going to be where basically somebody learns a skill. They can, quote-unquote, host classes where other people can sit in on the class, and then when they've, completed it, they'll learn a certain percentage of the skill. So basically, it's a way of getting skills without having to read skill books. So somebody is a quote-unquote master or the teacher who's got the skill, and they can basically pass it along to other people, basically how we think it's going to function. But neither here nor there. Let's keep looking here. Moving up item, let's see. Movement of items between inventories by a citizen. Moving between inventories, 2 actions are triggered. Let's try that, because we're not creating a currency. What's barter trade? Let's try barter trade. So on event barter trade, where let's say we're gonna do, just keep it simple. Let's just sit and do a acorn. Okay. So on event barter trade where item is an acorn. If you gotta go down here, if you are buying something, if buying, else, because we want a condition, because we want to have it be in the location. So there's some slightly less requirements here. So you can have citizen requirements. So in this case, we want to be location dependent. So district requirements, we would set a district, let's say market hub. So if, let's see, if bind, then if else if, let's change it to if else if. So let's say, sometimes you have to think of the negative of the law. So, let's see. Okay, I screwed this up. So let me so we're going to compare a set of conditions. Yeah, okay, sorry, this is where I screwed up. So, if buying, and so, like I said, half of this is sometimes, the first couple times through, just clicking through kind of what you want. Like I said, it's not very intuitive, that's kind of why I'm posting this section for it. But basically, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go back, if I delete this. So how I did that is, basically, I dropped down, so basically these are different sections. So if I do else, these are different sections that are made. what I want to do is I want to delete these sections, and I want to go through and add the little plus right here. I don't want to add a whole new section. I want to add something in addition to this. So do plus if buying, and we're going to compare, and we're going to do a set of conditions. So we're going to say, and see how it changed now to an if and. So if buying and if district requirements, districts, hub. So basically saying on event, so if you're not, let's try any, let's see how I would do this. Oh, I see, okay, we'll do it outside. Basically, it's saying, so this right here next to if any, that changes the or, so it's condition 1 or condition 2 or condition 2, 3, 4. All means all of them, that's ands, and none is not, if none of them are true. So in this case, we want to say, if you're both buying and your location is outside of Market Hub, then we can do different things with it. So communication, so basically we can send a notice. So basically if a player is trying to buy an acorn from someone's shop that is outside of the Market Hub, then we can send a note saying, hey, don't do this, please, please do it in the market, whatever. We can charge them a tax. We can sit and basically straight up authoritarian seize their government. There's tons of things we can do with it. We can sit and in this case we'll just prevent. So basically say this. So basically, if we read it, it says on event barter trade, where item is an acorn, if you're buying it and you're located outside of the Market Hub district, then prevent. Don't allow you to do it. So, and like I said, I don't want to screw with the game right now. Otherwise, I would try to push this law through and do it. But this also interfaces with Law 15, so I don't want to mess with it too much. But basically, kind of that's what you can do with it. So. In this case, if we want to have it be all items, so like we could have it set to be certain items. So let's say we only wanted it to be, I can't scroll here very good. Let's see vehicles. Filter by vehicles. Let's say any vehicle and submit that. So basically now it changes from one item to it's now a list. So basically, edit this. Take off vehicle. You click to select, click deselect. So if there's no little yellow icon around it, it's not selected. Basically, in this case, let's say we only wanted it to be a advanced technology shopping area. So in this case, you can have your small shops anywhere else on the game world, for food or whatever, blocks, whatever. But if you wanted to sell your high-tech goods, your steam tractor, your cranes and trucks and all that stuff, you have to be inside this zone. You can write a law that says that. You can tax, you can permit, you can do all kinds of stuff. So let's do another. Let's do another law here. So let me get rid of this one. So that's kind of an example of with the district system. Let's do a more general law. Let's say we want to have a law against pollution. Right? We've had some griefers on the server that have been chopping down trees and dropping garbage and things kind of all over. Let's say we want to prevent that. Just let's say if they're not on their own property, they can't pollute. So on trigger. So in this case, we're going to go down to place or pick up object. No. Well, block or object. Let's say that. Is there something for garbage? Let's check if there's something for garbage. Because there's garbage. Yeah, it's going to be under pollution. So drop garbage. And this thing, the game, they put in some of these things. They've kind of pre-scripted some of this to think of most of the edge cases. So, like, for example, garbage and pollution. So you could write a, pollution tax. We saw that on a server where a certain pollution per minute would be taxed at a certain rate. Because they were concerned about, pollution levels and things. So in this case, we'll do garbage. So on event drop garbage, if not on it is okay. Let's do if no. event drop garbage and if on owned land. And so if they're on land that they themselves have claimed. So we want to have both. We want to have it on. Let's try property rights. Yes. So in this case, on event drop garbage if they're on land that is owned and the citizen is the owner of the property, then allow. So we would have to we'd have to reverse this, right? So if citizen is not the owner of the property, so it's on if they're on unowned land and they are not owner of the property, then we're going to prevent. Oops, prevent. So basically here it says on event drop garbage if it occurs on unowned land, so it's out in the wilderness, or citizen is not the owner of the property, then prevent it. So right, so they can clutter on their ground all they want, but they can't go on unowned land, so they can't go on unclaimed land. So claimed land is different than districts. Districts is like a kind of region grouping. A land claim is like you own that piece. You can control who has access to anything on that piece. So in this case, basically is on event drop garbage if they're out in the wilderness or if they're not owner of wherever they're dropping it. So actually this is actually not even the best thing. I wonder if I should do it based on, well, own land, unowned land, not the owner of the property. I think this will still work. I think I was going to try to do it based on districts. I think I was looking at like action, like like where the location was taking place, but I don't know. I think this would work. And sometimes with laws, you have to try it out a little bit. And if it doesn't work, you just change the election and propose another election. That's one way to do it as well. Or also, I guess in this case too, we could prevent it. We could tax it, or we could even have a small penalty. You know, basically currency, Crombuck. Oops, not library tokens. Crombuck, and we'll have them pay a $2 fee. And let's say yes. So basically here we've added a few more conditions now. So basically if you drop garbage on some place that you don't own yourself, then you're going let's see. Pace it. No, we don't want to pace this. We want to tax. Pay. Okay, yeah, we're not going to pay them for it. They'd be paying themselves. That doesn't make sense. We're going to tax. Try to collect tax of, so here we want a number. You can do a percent. You can do progressive percent. So you can do progressive tax stuff. Put in just a custom formula. So in this case, we're going to sit and do just a number. Enter a number. So in this case, we're going to do 2 Crombucks. And yes. So basically, on event, if you're dropping garbage in somewhere that you don't own it, you're gonna basically the government is gonna collect a tax of $2 or 2 Crombucks from the citizen into the Treasury bank account, or you could also pay it somewhere else. You can't have it set up to where like you're paying the landowner of it. That doesn't really make sense. So you're basically gonna go under. I guess in this case, maybe only government accounts for taxation. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't played with this too much, so let's just say in this case, Treasury bank account. So this is an example where you can basically prevent an act, basically allow an action after collecting a tax from it. You can't single out single users, so like you can't write a law saying, citizen A, basically we're going to tax you 200%, so use your bank account. You can't do that. But you can basically do a bunch of other stuff here. What else can we? I'm just curious. What else can we do here for some examples? You can do stuff where first login, we've got some laws where basically if you have a citizen basically logs in for the first time, a first-time user, they'll get 200, I think they'll get 200 Chrome bucks to basically get them started on the server. You've got one if you got claim or unclaimed property. So you can basically say if you're a resident of a district and, let's say you've got a law that basically if you are, inside a district and you increase the size of your property, you could pay a one-time property tax to the government, for example. You can have a law that basically says didn't vote, vote or didn't vote. So let's say if you voted in the election, you get $5. If you didn't vote in the election, we seize your bank account. You can do things like that. If you can lost election, so if you run for an office, something could happen to you. Transfer properties. So if I give part of my land to somebody else, you could pay a penalty to the government for that. If you receive government funds, so let's say in this case, on event receive government funds. Source is going to be, let's say government budget. Let's change it. Let's do a more real. So right now I get a small stipend from the government. I don't really need it, but it was RGB put it in for me, and I haven't figured out how to take myself off it yet. So let's say source target Justin personal account, submit with currency Chromebook. Get out of the way. Okay. So on event where basically money from DGP is going to my account where the currency is Chromebook, add a condition if is admin, then prevent. So for example, this basically say, this is a complicated way to set up as a law. Technically, you would do this from the registrar table, right? So when you set up that group, so if this case I'm getting an annual payment or a daily payment from the government for my hours worked, since I'm a member of the Department of Development, you just would set it up there. But let's say, I don't know, let's think of a situation where somebody in the government made that, appointed me to that, but the citizens didn't want it, right? Let's say the citizens are pissed that I'm getting paid money for no apparent reason, even though I transfer money back in there. They could basically make a law that says, nope, we don't like that. So on event, every time Justin receives government funds transfer from the government to myself in this currency, and because I'm an admin, then prevent it. Or you could do kind of a circular loop, I think, where, let's say, title requirements, let's say, Department of Government Projects. So what would happen in this case is they're saying if I'm a part of government projects, which then it can basically say who's occupants of this Department of Government Projects. So in this case, it would be kind of circular. So I don't actually have this title. I can appoint people to, but I'm not actually in it. Department of Government Projects. Let me try. I thought there was a. Let's try. Head Department of Government Projects. That's me. So let me do this. So Head Department of Government Projects. That's me. So basically, on event, if I receive funds from the government account to my account in Chromebook, if I'm a part of this project, then prevent it. Or if I have this title, then prevent it. So basically, this would allow the citizens to write a law preventing me from getting any money. Again, like I said, there's a ton of other things we can sit and do over here. Let's see. Currency requirements. Like I said, I'm half experimenting with this, so I'm maybe starting to run a little long here. So in this case, if I receive funds in Chromebook, and if that currency is Chromebook, then prevent it. So basically, let's say the government had 2 or 3 ways to pay me, and they chose to use Chromebook. Okay, then you could prevent Chromebook. Let's say what's something else? Currency requirements. Then there's anything with the parentheses here is a couple mods I added in NID toolbox to do some just clean up stuff. So let's say allowed professional. Oh, no, let's say the citizen has let's say if you've got more than 2 skills, then tax it. So basically, you could write a law that basically says, if you've been on the server for a while, or say, oh, sorry, let's think of it this way. If you have less than a certain number of skills, so let's do this. On event, government if government tries to pay somebody in money, if a citizen has, there should be something to try to look at and do a comparison to it. It's going to be a arithmetic value. Absolute. Oh, sorry, that's absolute. Arithmetic basic math operations. Oh, operation. Oh, okay. All right. Let's do the arithmetic. I was trying to figure out how to do a less than or greater than sign using variables defined below. I've never done this. So you can actually write in text formulas, I guess, for this stuff. That's pretty cool, actually. I haven't played with that at all, so that is pretty darn neat. I don't want text. I just want to do. Where's the? I'm just trying to figure out where there's the way to do and basically say. Let's try arithmetic. Okay, so let's say, if you've got between 0 and 2 professions, or if you have, let's say you have 6 out of however many professions. Let's say there's, I don't know, let's say there's 20 professions. I forget how many there is. So let's say if you have at least 6 professions, you're going to be taxed. So right, it'd give a tax rate again to new players coming in the server. They don't pay a tax. If you've been around the server a long time, maybe you've built up some money. Government wants a little bit of it. Just be a way you can do that law. So, anyways, that's enough of this for right now. I will close this out. That's enough for kind of the law making. I'm just going to walk around, and like I said, whenever you're done making laws or making changes to a law, you got to click Add Changes to an Election, as we did before. Create an election draft. It's fine. Go over here, and you have to click Start Election. If you don't click Start Election, nobody gets to vote on it. So we're going to cancel that. We're just going to cancel this draft because we don't want that. And there we go. So basically that's the lawmaking in the kind of a nutshell. Like I said, a lot of it's playing around with it, and I've got to eat some food here. Nice. Basically that's kind of what there is to it. So, like I said, just come in here, play with it, start thinking of kind of what you want to do first, and then start playing around with things. You might have to think of like I use, for example, of preventing an action. You know, if you want to allow an action, you might have to go through and do its negative just to get it to work right with the logic. It's really powerful stuff. I know it seems a little confusing and overwhelming, but it's really powerful, and powerful things kind of sometimes tend to be complicated. But like I said, hopefully this gets people in here making laws. Like I said, let's see what else we got in here for laws. So like tax codes, okay? For example, you can look in here in the tax code. We have a progressive, so yeah, here's some of this over here. We have a wealth tax, have SNAP Act, so basically if you have less than 100 currency, give you 100 currency. If you first log in, give you 200. You know, if, for example, you don't like the tax rate, progressive percent, so basically this is, so we set the limits. So basically in here, if you have, maybe it's a little hard to see on the screen, I'm not sure. If you have 1 to 500, you're not taxed. From 500 to 2,000 is 4%, 2,000, 8,000, 6%, etc. So the more money you have, the more you'd be taxed. Basically incentivizes people spending money, keeping that money flowing through the economy. If you think 4% is too high, come in here, revise this law and say you want it to be 2% instead of 4. Add it to an election, start the election, boom, let people vote on it. Like I said, so basically, don't sit around complain about laws. Try to do something about them if you can. Like I said, if you have questions, obviously ask, and we'll try to help you. Like I said, I'm learning about this too. I'm sure there's some YouTube videos out there about it, but It's a little complicated thing, but yeah, basically take a role in your government. Like I said, make laws, make districts, start elections. I'm not too familiar yet on how to actually start elections for government offices. So for like Congress or general elections, things like that. I really haven't experimented with that too much yet. I'm sure a lot of it works in kind of a similar way. Like I said, I just haven't really done a lot of looking with it yet. I'm not sure. I haven't played around with the mint and kind of the treasury, things like that, so I can't really talk to that yet. Maybe that'll be a separate video if we feel there's a need. Like I said, this is mainly once someone has gone and basically set up um, this government stuff for you. This is kind of how you work with it on a day-by-day basis. So like I said, we credit to RGB for basically putting this together. He really loves the government stuff. I'm glad he does, because not quite my cup of tea, but glad we have him to put that together. Government office. Yeah, this is basically where you make titles. So in this case, or not titles, elected titles. So like president, treasury secretary, you know, overlord, commissar, whatever you want to make. And basically you can, so like let's here, just look under president. So basically this defines how you can basically go through and sit and basically give options to that elected office. So basically in this case, you make a basic election, which you have to form a basic election somewhere. I think that's in the Board of Elections down below, the little thing with the banner, the red, white, and blue banners hanging from it. So like for example, you can add categories to the eligible candidates, how many candidates, if you have any kind of successor stuff, term limits, if they're paid, all that kind of stuff. Down here, so like for example, representatives, this is a little more complicated. So in this case, what we did is we made it where there's 4 representatives. Basically, so yeah, basically in this case, we made it where representatives can vote on laws without requiring everyone on the server to vote. So basically, the representatives are basically just like Congress, right? They could sit and basically pass laws faster than having each citizen have to go through the 24-hour timer into it. But the citizens can basically balance that power by vetoing it. And like I said, I have to look up kind of how RGB set all this stuff up. But like I said, again, very powerful things. There's various options to this you can sit and do, etc. So just again, play around with things, and have fun with it. What's this here? This is Census Bureau. So what's Census Bureau? Oh, you can make a demographic. So demographic is a little different than a title. A demographic is meant to be used on a larger number of people than a title. And some of this gets into, I think, how everything kind of ties together, right? If you want to make a, not quite a law, but if you want to make something else, you would basically do it at like a Census Bureau versus giving them a title. Let's see, what's this? You can add conditions. So these are some of the same conditions we saw down below for laws. So where titles are kind of appointed, demographics are more chosen as a set of criteria. So what we're going to do is actually, let's open up the Congress one so we can see how this works. So for Congress, let's say, title requirements. So if you have one of 2 titles, president or representatives, if you have either one of those 2, basically you're going to fall under the Congress demographic. And then, that demographic allows certain things to happen or not happen. Let's say you wanted to make a very small, let's say you want to sit and make a law that basically says only Congress could access this building, this city hall, right? You would sit and make a district centered around this building, and then when someone was elected to Congress, they would fall under the Congress demographic because now they've got a title of representatives, and then they would automatically be added into Congress, and only Congress has access to this building. So, like I said, really powerful how you can kind of chain some of these things together. This is the executive office. So you can do executive actions. Basically, executive actions are basically one-time things that you can do. So it's like you could collect a one-time tax, or there's a limited number of things that you can do. But it's something that you perform on each citizen. So like I said, I'm not too up on some of this, how it all works. But that's, let's see, is there anything? Let me run over to the other building here, the Treasury, see if there's anything over there to really cover. I don't think there really is, because I don't know much about it. Let's see, the bank. Yeah, this is basically where people can come in and make their own bank accounts. Not too many people have done this, I think. basically, again, kind of like titles, you can managers, account users, treasury. So this is basically where you can, yeah, it says your treasury table, because I'm not a president nor am I the treasury secretary, right? So here's where they can change sales tax versus income tax. So like in this case, right, we've got it where if you're transferring between accounts, you're paying a 5% tax on it. Currency exchange, direct transfers, so you're transferring between like business and personal accounts. And I think you could sit and make a law that basically demands this, and then the president or treasury secretary could come over here and change it. You can do things like that. Let's see, mint. We've got 2 mints here, I think, because we have 2 different currencies. We have these Chromebooks and we have library credits, however. This basically is a direct exchange between whatever you want to come in and then what it crafts out. So in this case, you're taking a land claim. You're setting it to be 1,000 Chromebooks per land claim, and you can craft it. You can basically do currency reports. Basically it shows who has what amount of money of this currency. So, anyways, getting a little bit beyond scope of this video. I haven't, like I said, delved too much into those other things yet. So, so anyways, I'm gonna cut the video here. And like I said, if we need to do more in the future, I can. And hopefully this is insightful to somebody. So, thank you very much.